Welcome back to the Imaginary Gallery. It's TJ, your host. Tonight's topic is a continuation from the Lundy Bancroft book, Why Does He Do That? Inside the Minds of Angry and Controlling Men, section, Creating an Abuse-Free World. And now we're at the section called Reaching the Abusive Person. Lundy Bancroft says that if he were asked to select one salient characteristic of most of his abusive clients as an aspect of their nature that stands out above all the rest, he would choose this one. They feel profoundly justified. I would also substitute the word entitled. They feel profoundly entitled, which applies to the Cluster B creatures. Every effort to reach an abusive person must be based on the antidote to this attitude. Abuse is wrong. You are responsible for your own actions. No excuse is acceptable. The damage you are doing is incalculable. Your problems are yours and yours to solve alone. Who has the opportunity to have an impact on an abusive person's thinking, and what can they do? Friends and family. They're the front line. They've got a better chance of turning around an abusive person's attitude than everybody else. The abused lady, an abusive program, a therapist, the court system, put together. You are the hardest ones to discredit. He may dismiss the others on the list with just a wave of the hand because they're liars, or they're crazy, possessive, hysterical, or anti-male. But when his loved ones criticize him, he's likely to experience at least some uncertainty for the first time. Here are some guidelines to follow. Number 1, when somebody you care about is accused of abuse, don't just automatically tell yourself that, there's no way that's true. Because unfortunately, an abusive person complains to its relatives in an outraged voice, saying things like, "She accuses me of being abusive." They generally jump blindly to his side. They shake their head,
"Oh my goodness, what's wrong with her?"
and respond,
"How could she say that about you? What a witch!"
Nobody asks any questions. Instead of falling prey to this knee-jerk reaction, begin by finding out all the information that you can. What exactly does he do that she finds to be abusive? How does she say she's affected by him? What does she wish he would do differently? He will respond to these questions by making her sound ridiculous. He may, for example, say, "She says that if I'm ever in a bad mood, then I'm abusing her. Every time she doesn't get her way, she tells me that I'm an abusive person." Keep pressing him about what her perspective is. Ask him to give examples of specific interactions. Refuse to jump onto his bandwagon. Show him that you are reserving your judgment. Next, have a private conversation with the partner. Tell her that he's revealed that she feels abused and that you'd like to know what her concerns are. Now, she may not tell you much at all. It depends on how much she trusts you. But if she does happen to open up, you're likely to find that she really doesn't sound so crazy or like a bully in the way that he would like you to believe she is. When a lady complains of abuse, the great majority of the time, she has valid and important complaints about how her partner is mistreating her. Number 2. Don't repeat to him anything you spoke about in confidence with the partner, unless she had given you clear, expressed permission. You may be persuaded that he isn't the type to retaliate, but she knows better. Ask her which issues or events are okay to talk about with him, and which ones are not. To the extent that she gives the go-ahead, press him to think carefully about her complaints and to make the improvements in his behavior that she is asking for. Number 3. Don't ignore events that you witness directly. It's awkward to address a loved one's conduct towards its partner. Silence implies that you're accepting. Talk to each of them separately, raising your concerns about his behavior. Number 4. Follow up, especially with her. Find a moment to ask her privately whether or not this problem is still persistent or what kind of help she might be able to use. Now, Lundy Bancroft says that he understands and he values the loyalty of family members to each other. There's a natural temptation to speak out forcefully against abuse until the man whose behavior is under the microscope is one of your own. And then we switch sides. But we can't have it both ways. Abuse will not stop until people stop making exceptions for their own brothers and sons and their own friends. Supporting a lady against a man's abusiveness does not necessarily mean taking her side in every conflict in a relationship. They may have huge issues between the two of them that are a ridiculous mess, collisions about finances, raising their children, or the choice of friends. in addition to the abuse. When you challenge a loved one about mistreating its partner, it'll say,
"So you're on her side. She's turned you against me."
Respond to these distortions by saying,
I am not against you. I'm against your hurtful behavior. I'm not saying that she's right about every single issue between the two of you. What I am saying is that you won't be able to work out any of those other differences unless you first deal with your abuse problem. As long as you keep bullying her, you are the #1 problem.
nothing would work faster to end the abuse of a lady than having the friends and family of abusive men stop enabling them. But that begins, in turn, with making sure that you listen carefully and respectfully to her side of the story, which is something the guy never does.
Hi, it's me, the Narcopath. I'm here giving you a few more confessions.
I know it probably baffled you shortly after I dumped you, when all your friends seemed to turn on you. They seemed to ignore you. They didn't want anything to do with you, despite all the stories you told them. Well, honey, you have no idea how much of an influence I have on other people. You see, there was a running joke going that you were stupid. So a lot of the stuff I knew and talked about, I kept quiet when you were around. I can assure you, when you weren't around, I had every one of your so-called friends wrapped around my finger. And when you'd catch me doing things with the paper boy or the pizza boy, I had a way of turning that stuff around. When you acted all upset at me, I switched gears and pretended like I was upset at you. I would basically tell them whatever I had done to you, I told them that you had done it to me. Especially after the dumping, we know between us, the reason I dumped you was because you were catching on. You were finding out too much and asking too many questions, for God's sake. I had to act quickly. Remember, I'm the Narcopath. I cannot be left. I do the leavings. I had to step it up in gear. And all that stuff you'd cry to them and tell them I did. I'd already told them beforehand you did it to me. So it made you look even more unstable. Because I told them I thought you were unstable, that you were losing your mind and going paranoid, that you were reversing things. And I showed them a textbook that I thankfully found in TJ's home. It points out how mentally ill people will do such things. And they all bought it. So notice how their faces were just blank when you ran to them face to face to tell them how terrible I was to you. Didn't get you very far, did it? That'll teach you to mess with the Narcopath. You shouldn't have been asking questions. You shouldn't have been spying on me. You shouldn't have been looking through my phone. How dare you that time that I had to use the restroom? It was an emergency. And, oh, you got what you deserve because you ain't got me. It's your loss.
Oh, and I read your letter too, the one you wrote. As I suspected, you were baffled.
You kept talking about how cruel it was for me to push you and pull you into our relationship together. And you said you weren't ready because the last one really burned you. The last one did your first fear by seducing your brother like the others did. I'd told you I would never do that. And then I did it. And any other things that you told me about with your long monologues that were drawn out. Thought I'd pay you back for having to listen to all that crap while I pretended to be like, oh, that's terrible. Oh, how could he do that? How could she do that? Oh. And you bought all of it, so got me what I needed for the moment. But I needed to pay you back for all that stuff.
You said I was evil because I did the very thing you feared. And of course, when it happened, I tried to water it down and just say, oh,
Well, he's a nice person. I didn't intend to fall in love with your brother. It just happened. And it just sent you into tears. And honey, you deserve this. You shouldn't force me to work hard or extra hard. You should just do what I say, believe what I say. Who cares if there's proof otherwise? And you learned the hard way. You had to be a sleuth and spy on me and found out about your brother, and you weren't supposed to know about that. If you would have minded your own business, you and I would still be happy together. And of course your brother and I would be too, but you weren't supposed to know about that. That's not your compartment.
oh yeah, when I wronged you, which I know I did several times.
You love to tell people just what I did to you. And I know what I did was technically bad, which makes me a bad gal. But your insults, as I called them, I know were simply calling me the names that I really was. Other people, they didn't need to know the truth. So I just told them about how you called me names all the time. And even though you caught me in 20 lies, and you named all 20 of them, and called me a liar, I went to them and said,
Oh, he called me a liar. I've never lied to him.
and then when you found out I snuck around with your brother behind your back, you called me a cheater, which I was, but I told everyone else I'd never cheated on anyone, and how dare he call me a cheater? And they all believed that you were abusive. I won.